Today is Wednesday.
Okay. So it is 5:30. I will call the November 6th Alameda County Water District Special Board of Directors meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Directors Akbari,
Here.
Gunther,
Here.
Sethy,
Here.
Weed,
Here.
and Huang.
Here. Director Wee, would you do the honor and lead us in a salute to the flag?
All right. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic of which stands one nation,
Under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, before we move on to the next item, I believe General Manager Stevenson, you have some housekeeping remarks.
I do indeed. Good evening, everyone. On behalf of the ACWD Board of Directors, I'd like to welcome the public's participation in this special meeting of the ACWD Board. My name is Ed Stevenson, and I serve as the district's general manager. Members of the public may participate in this board meeting in person or remotely by either using the Zoom application or by telephone. Any member of the public participating in person may approach the speaker's podium at the appropriate time. For those participating remotely, note that the meeting agenda and presentation materials are all available on the district's website at acwd.org. You may reference the instructions at the top of the agenda for how to participate using the controls in the Zoom app or your dial pad if participating by telephone audio. This hybrid board meeting is being recorded and will be made available to the public for future viewing. And President Huang, that completes my housekeeping remarks.
Thank you, Mr. Stevenson. So next item is public comments on matters on this notice of special meeting. Members of the public may address the board on any issue that are listed on the agenda. A 5-minute limit is customary. Members of the public who wish to address the board on a scheduled agenda item will also be given the opportunity to do so when the item is discussed. I do not see any members of the public attending in person. Can we verify, do we have any attendance online?
There are no members of the public online.
Perfect. And with that, let's move on to item number 4, strategic planning workshop.
Okay, this is the final, we're rounding the final bend here in our journey on this strategic planning effort. It's the final strategic planning workshop for 2025. In this workshop, staff will present the draft 2025 strategic plan and will cover the following topics: key differences in the plan structure from the 2018 plan, highlighting the key elements of the plan update, including the new vision, values, and mission statement, and reviewing excerpted tactics from the implementation action plan. Staff will be seeking feedback on this draft plan and intends to bring the final update of the plan to the December 11, 2025 regular board meeting for adoption. And I would just add that this is going to be the lightest workshop in this whole series for you all. You have done the heavy lifting already. You'll note that it's maybe not the easiest for staff, but certainly for the board. You'll notice that we've not passed out any sticky dots, or we don't have rows and rows of flip charts. You guys have already done the heavy lifting in this process. You've already shared your input on the plan elements, the pillars, the goals, the strategies, and many of the tactics. And you've modified our mission statement, and you've decided on our agency's vision and core values through quite the process. So congratulations on getting here. Now, in the background, all this time, but in particular over the last couple of months, staff has been putting a lot of work into the implementation action plan. These are the details, the tactics, the metrics that will be used, and so forth. We'll talk a little bit about this evening, but that's going to be mostly in the sort of implementation side, and you'll hear a little bit more about how we plan to move forward with that. There's been a tremendous amount of effort in that area. That's really to populate those tactics and the metrics and so forth. That we're seeing as a staff effort. Ultimately, what we bring back to the board in December will be the core strategic plan, including the key strategies and elements that you all have been working on and working through. And then staff will then take it from there, finish populating all of the elements of the implementation action plan, and then we'll circle back with the board with a bit of an update in the springtime to kind of review how all of that has come together. But without further ado, I will turn it over to Jackie.
You're doing the first one.
If I might,
Sure.
since we're reviewing what we've done to date,
Mhm.
I have a serious fundamental problem with the decision of the board last time to include all three had sections 12, which had what we would accomplish over the next A, B, C. Through A and B, it was $400 million. C was an additional $600 million. But we had no reasonable expectation of doing it, and I would argue even wanting to do it. Put something in a strategic plan. You should plan on funding it. Where you're going to come up with another $600 million plus in overtime plus interest is beyond me. And that is a serious problem I have with where we're going. And I see it as a fundamental issue that hopefully we can revisit, because I'm going to have difficulty supporting the strategic plan if that remains in it.
Yeah, and and I'm glad you brought up that distinction, because this is an important distinction. You know, as the board knows and the public knows, we have two really important strategic planning efforts going on kind of in parallel, right? So we have our water resources master planning process, and the board is very familiar with that, having spent many hours in discussions on the elements of the water resources master plan. And then you have the district's strategic plan, which is what the focus is of our workshop this evening, is the strategic plan that deals with a lot of other organizational issues. It incorporates the water resources master plan as one of the sort of line items within the strategic plan, but the strategic plan that we're working on this evening doesn't include the specific elements of the water resources master plan. Yeah.
I wanted to talk about the weak foundation that we developed.
Okay. Well, that we will have another important workshop on the water resources master plan on November 20. So, you know, make your notes, save your comments for that meeting, and be sure to be there or be square. But we got, you know, that is an important element of what the district does, and of course our future path forward, but there's lots of other elements too, and that's what's sort of in the strategic plan. So with that, I guess I will cover the first slide or so, and maybe, I'm sorry, I forgot the script, Ms. McLeod.
That's okay. Mr. Stevenson's going to go through the agenda, and then I will chime in and take us on our journey tonight.
Okay, all right. So we're going to talk first about, you know, what it is that we're doing here, what we're trying to accomplish. We'll talk about the process that we've gone through today, a little bit of review, mostly to kind of recenter you all and refresh your memory as to kind of where we've been and the decisions that you all have provided in the way of guidance for us as we continue to work on this plan. That includes the plan structure, some of the draft elements. We'll be talking about how we have moved some of your overall objectives into you know, strategies and tactics. We'll dive into that a bit. But we want to make sure really what we're doing here this evening is kind of showing you how it's all shaping together, give you a preview of the plan for December, and then we'll seek your adoption of the plan in December. Okay, with that, I think now I'll turn it over to Ms. McLeod, who's a special assistant to the general manager, really has been leading this effort throughout the district, has been doing a fantastic job, and with the great support of Ethan Birch, who's kind of been the deputy project manager on the strategic plan. And that's actually been great because, as you know, Mr. Birch is also the deputy project manager for the water resources master plan. And there are, as I pointed out, there are areas where the two need to be integrated and certainly aligned. And then Jennifer Persicki, who's our esteemed consultant here, has been, again, helping us step through this effort, working with staff and working with the board. So I think now I'll turn it over to Ms. McLeod.
Thank you, Mr. Stevenson. So a little bit of an update and review that we want to go over for the strategic plan is we want to remind the board and the members of the public that we held a total of 4 workshops. We're in our 4th workshop right now. This is our final workshop. We started with reviewing our 2018 strategic plan, and we discussed exploring vision, values, and mission to add to our update of the 2025 plan. We did determine in workshop 2 and 3, what were the vision and values of the district moving forward? And we approved that in workshop number 3. Today, we're going to review the 2025 draft plan. I want to remind everyone that we had internal and external stakeholder engagement that included city council presentations as well as a Rotary Club meeting. We also did extensive internal stakeholder engagement with our staff, with different departments as well. And Ethan, Mr. Birch, did most of the work on the working group meetings to develop the implementation action plan, which was where the tactics of the strategic plan will live. So one of the first things we want to discuss is the update to the plan structure. So using industry best practices, we determined that the plan structure was going to be in 2 different phases. We were going to have board action with developing the strategic plan elements. We were going to have pillars for the district with goals and strategies. From the strategies is where the implementation action plan would be derived from staff. So that's working with the working group meetings and developing tactics, core metrics, outcomes, and ownership of who will be delivering each line item. And again, this is review. So this delineates what are the pillars, goals, strategies, tactics, metrics, and outcomes, and who will be responsible for each of those levels of the strategic plan. So the board develops the pillars, goals, and strategies. We work together to look at our tactics, but staff is going to determine what the tactics will ultimately be and what the metrics and outcomes will be that we measure success by. Are there any questions on the plan structure so far?
Was there a former general manager in the picture?
There
Yes.
was,
Notice that on
yes.
the-
Would you like me to scoot? I can
Yeah.
go back. There sure is. We were lucky enough to be invited by Mr. Shaver to this Rotary Club meeting to present. There's actually a lot of good feedback from this Rotary Club chapter.
Glad to see he's still participating.
Yeah, and I believe this was the Silicon Valley Chinese Rotary Club, and it's one of the only local Rotary clubs that speaks entirely in Chinese. So it's pretty, it was an honor to be invited to present.
Great.
Any other questions or comments from the board? No, and just double check, we do not have any members of public online?
No.
Nope, moving on.
All right, I would like to invite our consultant, Ms. Persyke, up to go through the next series of slides.
Well, good evening, everybody. Great to be with you again. And this is really exciting to see this all coming together, and your team has done such a fantastic job incorporating your feedback. So we have presented this to you before, the elements, but we want to share them again as now we're focusing in and getting deeper into the plan so that you can see the alignment throughout and the way everything is connected. And it's really exciting. This vision that you all created is new for the district, and I think is really becoming that overarching umbrella under which everything else is really sort of culminating. So as we've discussed previously, all of the elements are, you know, significant individually, but they do build and support each other. And that vision is that really long-term aspiration for the district. The mission, again, is zeroing in on the purpose, the reason the district exists, what it does. And then together, they fill out the overall immediate structure there. And then we move into the values for those guiding principles. That is the filter through which the district makes decisions, kind of weighs options and those kinds of things. And you'll see that as we revisit those elements again. So your vision statement, what I'm going to say, I would stack up this vision statement to any in the industry now, because it has to be very unique for its conciseness, which is really wonderful because there's no need to second guess what your vision is. It is so clear and really crystallized: quality water, thriving community. So I really think you should be very proud of that vision statement. Again, it is one of the most concise and just really says it all. So that is your vision statement. And your mission statement, again, there was total agreement that your prior statement here for your mission really was excellent, but we were able to just refine it a bit more to elevate the customer in the statement itself. Customers were previously lower in the statement, and to reinforce water service, again, that high quality water service, and the other elements so critical to the purpose: reliability, sustainability, and a reasonable price. So again, this is your mission statement. We eliminated saying the mission of, as you'll recall, to keep the statement nice and concise. And again, that is now a best practice in the industry. No need to restate the organization when it's going to be in the document with all the other elements. So values, again, the values guide, they are the guiding principles, kind of the heart, if you will, of the organization. And again, a very pretty concise list here, no hierarchy, but you landed at these 6: service, safety, trust, resilience, collaboration, and stewardship. And not to leave anyone's imagination what we meant by any of these. We took that next step, which not every organization does, to define each. So these definitions are how this district is applying these values, and they really put that fine point on each. Looking at service here, that delivery of exceptional service and support, putting the needs of customers, communities first, and understanding they are the reason that you exist. So service, then safety, recognizing that this is really job one and that employees are the most critical asset. Strive that every decision and action contributes to that safe workplace and healthy workforce. So that's your safety value. Then we move on to trust. Building trust through integrity, reliability, transparency, community engagement, and honoring commitments to the workforce, customers, and partners. So this was ensuring that we're really underscoring the commitment of the district is to all of those groups, and that the way we get there is by providing that excellent service and building that trust. Resilience, planning and preparing for the challenges with intention, learning from setbacks, because we know they're out there, and then adjusting as needed and emerging stronger in pursuit of the mission. This is really, I think, important, the terminology around adjusting, because to not adjust is to ignore the circumstances that may arise. So across the board, this provides that flexibility. Collaboration, really making the point that the culture, internal and external, really is built through cooperation and respect and leveraging that common interest. And this, I recall, and you probably will as well, that idea that we're valuing the unique strengths that each party brings. That was a great sort of massaging of the language by the board members. And stewardship. Again, to ensure that we are defining this, that we are responsible stewards of our resources, the infrastructure and finances, people, environment, and the community, ensuring that the actions create a positive legacy for tomorrow. So forward thinking, but ensuring that we are publicly stating that we see our stewardship in all of those various ways and for all of those different categories of, whether it's the people, the environment, the community that you are serving. So that is where we are with your elements. Any questions? All good?
So,
Thumbs up. That's what we want to hear. Thank
no, that
you.
was not part of this definition, so.
Thank you.
Correct. There
That's why we
are.
took care of it while you were gone. Exactly. You got through it quickly, sure.
However, just for the record, we did note the comments that all of the directors made. And like, for instance, what's on the screen now is we wanted to be very clear about what we meant by stewardship and what our strategic plan means by stewardship. And we know that that was some of the feedback that we had was, these words and phrases and things can be taken different ways. Not anymore. So, okay, Ms. McLeod.
All right, now we're getting into the meat of the strategic plan. So we're going to discuss the strategic plan pillars, goals, and strategies now. These should look very familiar, as pillar number 1 is cost effectiveness and value. The goal is to maintain and improve the cost effectiveness, reliability, and value of district services. From the strategic goal, we then move to our strategies. In an effort to streamline and make our strategies a little more efficient, we may have combined some of the previous strategic goals that you saw into a strategy. But let's go through them. So strategy CEV stands for cost effectiveness and value. So you can recognize the strategy when you're looking on a workbook. CEV1 is efficiently manage and maintain our infrastructure to ensure reliability. CEV2 is continue to meet water quality standards 100% of the time. CEV3 is to prioritize efficient water system management and operations.
I thought I'd make one additional note here, and I meant to make it at the beginning, but everyone in front of them, and here in the room, we have extra copies for members of the public and for staff too, has in front of them a packet. It's really the draft strategic plan itself. And just so we're all kind of thinking the same things, what we're showing here on the slide are the major category areas, right, where these strategies are included into the strategic plan. But underneath each one of these, there are multiple tactics. And you can find those, at least the draft ones that are being sort of worked right now by staff, which include a lot of the feedback that we've had from the board thus far. In the packet that's in front of you, and you can see that for, say, CEV1, there are actually 6 tactics that all go along with that. And each one of those tactics then has a lot of other details that will go along with it in the implementation action plan. But we wanted to make sure that you had in front of you more of the broad spectrum of what the plan ultimately entails. So Ms. McLeod is kind of going through things at a high level right now, but you do have in front of you more information if you're interested in any of these that you see. Okay.
All right, so moving on to pillar number 2, water supply. The strategic goal is to sustain a reliable, high-quality water supply for our customers. The strategies associated with this pillar are labeled WS1, WS standing for water supply. WS1 is protect, maintain, and enhance the sustainability, reliability, and quality of local, regional, and imported water supplies. WS2 is advocate for the value of imported water supplies. WS3 is evaluate new and innovative water management concepts to foster resilient water supplies. And again, as Mr. Stevenson just said, in Appendix A, which is the implementation action plan, behind all of these strategies exist lots of tactics of how we will accomplish these strategies. Moving on to pillar number 3, finance. We're going to maintain our financial stability and promote transparency. Strategies are listed as F1, F2, F3, F4. Again, the F stands for finance. F1 is to ensure revenue stability. F2 is to ensure cost reasonableness and prudently manage customer financial impacts. F3 is to prioritize financial transparency, and F4 is to support customer access and affordability. Moving on to pillar number.
Customer access mean?
So I will look to Mr. Wunderlich to supply a little context for F4.
Yeah, I will.
Like customer support?
Yeah, so it's things like maintaining our Help on Tap program, making sure that, I know one of the things Mr. Birch has been working on, will be coming back to the board in the future, are things like a kind of comprehensive affordability policy. So it's kind of all of those ways we interact with our customers to support access to water service.
If I could add another thought to that. This board has never denied a development based on water availability. And that is hopefully practice, something that we'll be able to maintain into the future. I see that in part as customer access.
Yeah. Again, for clarity, we've never denied water to a development based upon availability. When mitigations are required, we do require them from a water supply standpoint, water reliability standpoint, but never denied.
Right, any other questions, comments? All right, moving on to pillar number 4, workforce. The goal is to improve workforce health and safety, enhance recruitment, maintain retention, and deepen employee engagement. The strategies associated with pillar number 4 are enhance recruitment strategies to attract a highly qualified and diverse workforce, maintain employee retention by encouraging, valuing, and developing employee contributions and skills, champion employee safety and well-being to drive a thriving and resilient workforce, cultivate an engaged, productive, and innovative workforce, and enhance succession planning and knowledge transfer. Moving on to pillar number 5, communication. Promote clear and open communications, outreach, and engagement with customers and communities. The strategies are listed using C1 through C5. C1, increase awareness of district services, resources, and value in the community. C2, continuously work to improve the customer experience and engagement. C3, foster transparent and consistent communication with diverse communities, customers, and district partners. C4, sustain a culture of water use efficiency through education, outreach, and engagement. C5, help customers prepare for water-related emergencies. And our final pillar, this was one that we developed. Emergency preparedness and response used to be embedded in other strategies and goals. We decided to pull it out and make it a standalone pillar and goal. The goal is to ensure organizational readiness to respond to disasters and emergencies that threaten our ability to carry out our mission. The strategies are EPR 1 through EPR 4, with EPR standing for Emergency Preparedness and Response. EPR 1 is to ensure programmatic readiness. EPR 2, ensure infrastructure readiness. EPR 3 is to ensure human readiness. And EPR 4 is to ensure organizational cultural readiness.
And I add a fifth to this, which can be embedded, I'm sure, in one of them. But the ability to be able to have financial resiliency, I'll use that term advisedly, that, and we have a line of credit for up to $50 million. We have a rate structure which is increasingly put more of the bill on the service charge as opposed to the commodity charge. That is an important element in maintaining emergency preparedness.
Any other questions, comments from the board? If not, I do have a comment on pillar 1. Director
Just made
Akbari?
one comment in relation to Director Weed's comment. My understanding is what Director Weed is requesting is kind of covered in strategy F1 on ensuring revenue stability. Is that a fair assumption, or am I misinterpreting that?
That is a fair assumption, but I would like to have my subject matter expert who's in the room with me respond, either Mr. Stevenson or Mr. Wunderlich. My understanding is that's where our financial activities and tactics will live in the strategic plan.
The point I'm making here is that in an emergency, you have a different set of circumstances, and that to maintain that, we're doing a lot in our operations, financial ability to emergency.
And
Its
that,
own special
I'll
consideration.
articulate.
yeah, that's a fair comment. And I think that that has been a strategy that this board has really tried to advance and make sure that we're financially ready and financially nimble in the event of a real emergency that taxes our resources. And so we have implemented those things. Now, whether one could interpret that as falling under financial resiliency in different ways, but I think it's a fair comment and suggestion, and I think we can make it more clear in the plan.
So I do have a question on pillar number 1, cost effectiveness and value. So this is more an acknowledgement of our customers' comments, concerns, and it's not actually my opinion on about appropriateness of our pay, but controlling labor costs as part of cost effectiveness, I think is a very big concern for our customers. So perhaps that should be something that we acknowledge, that we'll be monitoring our labor costs. That's an implementation, but somehow if we could write that into a strategy or acknowledge it somewhere, right? Because this plan is for our community, right? Their vision of where we would be going in the future, and the acknowledgement of something that is a recurring comment from our community, I think would be a good idea.
Okay. Noted.
Any thoughts or?
Yeah, no, I mean, we are specific in other areas related to infrastructure and water
Right.
supplies and optimization and lots of other areas. And again, we have sort of more blanket financial stewardship type objectives and tactics, but I think that that's fair too, and I think we can be clear.
Thank you. It just, this is a recurring themes every time we have a rate increase. So it, at least for me, in my opinion, it would be good for us to acknowledge openly that it is part of our strategy to monitor our labor costs.
Mm-hmm.
And then you could figure out what implementation action.
Yeah, what
we
does the
want to
metric
do,
look like?
Right. Matrix. Yep. Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments from the board? I am still not seeing anybody attending in
Correct.
person, and I do not see any members of the public online, so moving on.
All right, so next up is Mr. Birch, and he will be discussing the examples of the implementation plan and the work that went on for that.
Mr. Cloud. Good evening, everyone. So we're going to talk a little bit about the process we used to develop what is currently the kind of draft implementation action plan as we still go through this process. So you'll notice in the handout, there's a large banner on the right-hand side that says under construction, and that is just reflective of our ongoing efforts to continue to develop some of the various elements that go into the implementation action plan, as well as to really make sure that our direction is fully locked down before we get too deep into those weeds. So when we started with this process, we recognized that we all have our own point of view, and we're all in our own silos, some of us more than others, and we realized in order to effectively develop a slate of tactics to achieve these strategic goals, we would need to work in groups. And so we began with a process of working through the executive staff group to identify subject matter experts to convene to discuss the best ways to accomplish the strategies that are outlined in the strategic plan. We started with the tactics from the previous strategic plan, and we refined them. In many cases, there were major changes. In some cases, the tactics are still effective and needed maybe only minor updates. So we, over the course of about a month and a half, we had a lot of meetings, we had a lot of discussions, a lot of reviews, and we put together the draft tactics that you see in front of you in that document. This is a document that is not intended to be set and forget. This is going to be adaptively managed. We will continue to review and track our progress against these metrics that we'll continue to develop so that we make sure we stay on track, and so that we make sure that these tactics continue to serve us as we implement them. So it is a living document. It's not in 6 months some of it might have changed. So there's a really ongoing collaborative process to keep and maintain and implement this document. So aside from the tactics themselves, which are what you see there, and they are, I think it was mentioned earlier, they're aligned so that you can kind of easily reference what part of the plan you're looking at whenever you see a tactic. That was something from the previous strategic plan. Just as I began to transcribe that plan into an Excel document, I felt, you know what, it would make a lot more sense if we had kind of a handy guide here. So we're moving to this. And then along with that, we want to develop metrics, outcomes, owners, and timelines for each of these things so that we can kind of organize ourselves and have a sense of where we're going. A lot of those items, metrics, outcomes, owners, timeline, those exist already. They're just not necessarily pulled into one place. So there's some existing dashboards and stuff that we use internally to track metrics and progress. And we're taking a look at those items and consolidating and refining and so on and so forth. So with that said, that's kind of the process that we have been using to arrive at what you see in front of you. And to see that in action, I'm going to go through a couple of quick examples just pulled from this document, and then with some of those additional details filled in, so you can kind of get a sense of what this is going to look like as we use it. So the first example here is under the first pillar, the cost effectiveness and value pillar, and you can see from the numbering that this falls under CEV1. So CEV 1.6, collaborate with industry partners on innovations to improve trenchless technologies to reduce the cost of water system renewal. We have a short description. Participate in the UC Berkeley Center for Smart Infrastructure Advancing Main Renewal Technologies. A description of the outcome, which would be lower unit costs for main renewals, and then a metric for tracking that. So reduce average main renewal cost by $1 million a mile. There's a group listed as the owner there, so we know who's responsible for implementing this work, and then we have a timeline of when this is going to take place. So this is an early example of what we're going to ultimately end up with for all of these. So different types of metrics, different outcomes, obviously, but this sort of approach. Another example, and I apologize, this is the pillar is misnumbered. It should be pillar 3. However, the tactic number is correct. This is under strategy 4 of finance. So implement a customer crisis assistance program. Description is to develop and implement a program to provide eligible customers with a one-time or limited frequency fixed benefit separate from Help on Tap, funded by non-rate revenues that exceed the requirements of the Help on Tap program. So basically taking the money that we have been able to use for the Help on Tap program, if there's any extra left over at the end of the year, we can kind of create a separate little program out of that to fund one-time emergency help for customers. The outcome of this would be that we stand up a program and the customers start using it. As far as a metric, we would be tracking things like customer participation and then success in terms of, reducing shutoffs on those customers that have those one-time emergencies, things like that. The owner for that would be customer service and then myself. And then the timeline would be fiscal year 2026. So coming up soon. Another example here.
Mr. Birch, I just want to point out one thing on that last one. There's a note about a stretch goal.
Oh,
And
yes.
As this board's aware, that the planning that we do now and the tracking that we do now, we include stretch goals, and we're not afraid to include stretch goals. We know that we're not going to meet every stretch goal, but we also know that, having interim goals is wise, things that are achievable, things that are timely, and we can set some targets that are reasonable. That's wise to do. But we're also, again, not afraid of stretch goals. So you'll see, ultimately in the implementation action plan, there'll be a number of, say, timelines that frankly, we may not be able to meet, right? But there are others that, we fully intend to meet. So I just wanted to make that quick note here. As we track this, we actually have been using kind of a color coding system. We use red when we're not meeting it, and we will fully expect to see red in our tracking on many of these because we are pretty aggressive on some of the goals. Okay, sorry about that.
Just a quick comment. When we come to metrics, if it's possible to quantify rather than just using general terms lower. Second, I would suggest a great metric on this is a reference to the number of referrals to collection agencies, which hopefully can be brought to, and turnovers, which hopefully can be reduced to zero with the appropriate billing using the property tax statement.
Yeah, it's a good comment. And virtually all of our metrics, there are numerical targets associated with them. We haven't settled on the specific target in many cases yet. So there are some generalities still at play.
Moving on to another example from our communication pillar, number 5. Under strategy C3, we have tactic 3.5. Ensure website and public-facing documents are compliant with document accessibility standards and best practices. The description is board packets, presentations, reports, and website content to be compliant with Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, WCAG 2.1, by April 2027. OGM to issue updated administrative guideline on document standards. The outcome is just to achieve compliance with these standards. The metric would be that new content is 100% compliant with these standards, and that is going to live in the office of the district secretary. And our timeline for implementing that is, to meet the April 2027 requirement. So another example, and this is one where you see a timeline that's driven by a regulatory requirement, for instance. So I think this is our last example tactic for the day. This is under pillar 6, emergency preparedness and response. Tactic is EPR 3.4. Provide emergency preparedness and response awareness level training for all staff biannually. The description is overview awareness training on emergency response plan and business continuity plan for all staff every 2 years. The outcome is that all staff would be familiar with the emergency response plans and their roles. The metric would be that a minimum of 45% staff are trained every year. The Office of Emergency Services would own that, and the timeline would be kind of an immediate implementation of that. So, yeah, and that's our last example tactic for the day. So I just want to pause for any questions.
I noticed that you had board training for emergency situations too, every 3 years.
Yes, that is one of the draft tactics. Yeah.
How did you select 3 years?
I'm going to defer to Mr. Stevenson on that because
I came up with that, Director Sethy, and I don't remember my rationale. It aligns with, I know this, it aligns with our planning related to training modules for staff in different situations, right? So we have our command general staff that'll populate the EOC that has very specific duties.
Yeah.
And we are to all be retrained on, I believe it's a 3-year basis. So that's probably where you guys got roped into that same schedule so that you're receiving similar training as we are when we review these roles that we all have.
My, response to everything I'm seeing, it's excellent work. I really appreciate all the time and effort that's been put in. I would like to see, before we adopt a formal plan, all of these other tactics laid out and what the measurables are, so that we're not presented with it at the very last moment before adoption. Just to kind of screen through it, offer any feedback if we have it.
Yeah, we'll be happy to share with you sort of where it is in the process at that time. Again, what we'll ask the board to adopt is more of the strategy and the policy stuff. And what staff will work on is the more of the implementation detail. But we have nothing to hide. So and the board will see it, as we report on our progress on the various items. So, and again, it'll be kind of a living document, but we're happy to share where we are with the implementation action plan at the time that we ask the board to consider adoption of the strategic plan itself.
Right. What I heard Ms. McLeod saying is that staff is driving the tactics, and it sounds like there's no room for the board to offer any ideas or suggestions.
There's always room for the board to make suggestions and provide
Okay,
input.
here's one other comment. Who presently owns duties for the website? Is it the district secretary or communications department?
It's public affairs, the public affairs division. That'd be Ms. Shireen Gonzalez and her team. They're the primary sort of owners, but the way it works is we have the content sort of owners within the website are throughout the district. And they're all identified by the content on the website. But Shireen is responsible for the website in general.
Okay, and I know there's a lot of the new things that the legislature passed in recent years to get everybody to be handicap compliant for
Right.
hearing and blind people and all kinds of things. And we have a very large hearing deficit community with the California School for the Deaf right here in Fremont, one of the only two in the state of California. And so I'm really hoping that we do become more compliant. There's been a lot of training through CSDA by different agencies that are working to do these kind of upgrades. I've talked to Mr. Stevenson about this. The last thing is I hope it doesn't get lost in here for the board and management team to keep up their this award distinctions, like the distinction of
District of Distinction and
Right.
Platinum certification.
right, and that we make sure that we're always compliant with that. Anybody who needs to go through new training gets it. And I think CSDA now has a new award coming up, and the Institute for Local Government, LG, they have a new set of awards as well that I've been kind of just looking into a little bit.
Yeah, as it stands right now, every department has goals related to awards. Right, because we do a lot of great work, and the idea there is to make sure that, that we're doing things that are recognized as the right way to do it. And so now what we don't have is a requirement for the board to maintain platinum certification. The good news is we are fine. And in fact, our district secretary, Ms. Sue, has recently gone back and done some legwork to confirm. But I like putting some goals on you guys. That's a good idea. We're going to have pillar number 7, and that will be board of directors.
Well, I was looking at myself. I realized my 2 years is coming up on ethics and harassment.
Oh, yeah.
training, So
Yeah.
while I have a little time, I'm going to go through that. And Director Weed has brought this up before. And I'm not sure there's a common understanding of what community outreach really means. And so you see it talked about different ways at aqua conferences, you see it talked about in different ways at CSDA. And I would really like us to have a more robust discussion, like John has been promoting, to figure out what is it that we want to accomplish on community engagement.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Communication is in large part community engagement in our strategic plan. And I think that might be the pillar, certainly one of the pillars with most tactics involved. There's a lot there. So in terms of discussing, hey, like philosophically, what are we truly trying to accomplish? We've pulled together what we think we're trying to do, but that's a reasonable topic for additional discussion.
Well, I went back to and I was recently sharing this with Shireen. I went back to the original Fiona Hutton document
Mhm.
that she produced, about a dozen, let's see, I think back in 2011. And we didn't really have a PR department at that point. That is the document that spearheaded the
Right.
drive to find somebody like Shireen and then build a small department. Otherwise, it was just Frank John. That had very detailed suggestions. I mean, in great detail. And I think that we need a new document like that for the next decade. And it would be worth paying Fiona Hutton or somebody else in the industry to do something like that for us. Get some outside eyes looking in at different methods, ways we can promote our district.
Yeah, certainly we're open to suggestions. I think you'll know that that we have implemented virtually all the elements in that Fiona Hutton plan.
That's what I told Shireen.
Yeah,
It's amazing.
yeah. Plus many more too, because that was really prior to a lot of emphasis on social media and the different types of outreach and the tools and the avenues that are available. So we've done quite a bit beyond that too. So yeah, definitely open to suggestions.
Oh,
Director
That's
Lee?
it for me.
thank you. Quick follow on that. First of all, it's best to understand the distinction between community engagement and community outreach. We do outreach pretty well. Engagement needs some work on. We do a lot of newsletters, et cetera. Second, on the emergency preparedness, experience in the Air Force was the recognition that the individual's roles become almost immaterial when they're historic roles, because we have to repurpose the organization. An individual will be asked to do one or more other tasks, responsibilities than what they have historically done. You'll be doing it with less than half the personnel, because half of them will be taking care of their families. So hopefully that mindset will be put into our emergency.
Any other comments? Any other director comments? No, I'm still not seeing any members of the public attending in person or online. So moving on, Ethan.
So we are at the end of our strategic plan journey. It's been really fun. I've really enjoyed it. I think we have covered a lot of ground. Again, one of the most impressive parts of our strategic plan update is the alignment between the board, staff, and the community and what is important for the district moving forward. On the other side, for the implementation action plan, the district staff who are going to carry forward the tactics to meet our strategic goals and our pillars are committed and dedicated to doing so over the course of their careers for the community. So I feel very fortunate that we have the strategic plan as it stands now in draft form and that we're working through the implementation action plan. So in this board workshop, we wanted to cover what is the draft plan? What is our implementation action plan? And we are going to come December 11th to the board meeting for adoption of the strategic plan. The implementation action plan is a separate document from the strategic plan. It's the living document with the tactics. So I've noted Director Sethy's comments. You want to be able to review that. December 11th, we're not asking to adopt the implementation action plan. We're only going to look for adoption of the strategic plan.
Okay, good.
And then we are planning on coming back to the board in January or between January and February for an update on the implementation action plan to the board. So we hear you loud and clear. We know you want your input added into the tactics. You want to be able to review them. You have time. It's a living document that we're going to adaptively manage.
I have one other comment. I have spent quite a bit of time looking at the UC Berkeley Center for Smart Infrastructure, and I've met people, both students and graduate students, professors that are working on all these efforts. And it's so vast, all of the different opportunities that they present. I went to a UC Berkeley fair. It was an outdoor fair where they were showing off all of the unique things that these students are working on. It's phenomenal, and it's local. It's a local resource. I'm hoping that besides just the main renewal, which is very important, one of our most expensive efforts, that we keep a good eye on what's going on with the other asset improvement technologies that they're working on, and perhaps even look at inviting in one or two interns, come in and take a global look at our district and say, hey, we've got these resources, we could pull them in here.
Yeah, and I'll add that Mr. Awoke has been pretty engaged in that Center for Smart Infrastructure so far, and through his efforts, we've been able to kind of help, really kind of direct some of the priorities of the things that group is really working on. It's not just ACWD, it's also some of the larger agencies in the state, LADWP and San Francisco and East Bay Mud. And, but it's been helpful because we've been able to provide the water industry perspective as to what really matters most. And as you saw, part of it's translated here on an example slide. And as you nailed it, and that is the main renewal, I'll say line items in the CIP, that makes up the largest capital component of the capital program, which is the largest overall expense of the agency. So it's really, really important that we can maximize those dollars and get the most bang that we can for the buck. But that needs some improvements in technologies and procedures.
Not all of the students are involved with civil engineering.
Correct.
They come from other fields too.
Yeah.
But it's a great recruiting environment.
Oh,
for
yeah.
Future engineers that we want to pull in here.
Yeah. And we have, well, not to get too much off topic, but we have brought in students from the Berkeley program that's associated with the Center for Smart Water Infrastructure through participating in the internship pipeline program and pulling students into ACWD. So we've got, we just had 2, but now we have 1, and there's another crop coming, I think, late this month. So we're very, very plugged into those programs.
Great. Good to hear that.
Right, so I'm going to reiterate. Oh, sorry.
Just before we move on to next step, I just wanted to say I'm very happy with the way that the progress we've made through this process. I feel like in going through this, the comments I made and the feedback I shared has been well incorporated. And so I just wanted to express my appreciation to staff. I know a lot of time and effort has been put into this throughout this process, and a lot of varying feedback has been received. But just from my perspective, I am very happy with what's in front of me today.
Thank you. So I'll reiterate the next steps. We're going to finalize our plan update in November, so I need to prepare for the next board meeting. We're going to bring the final plan for board consideration adoption at the regular December 11th, 2025 board meeting. We're going to finalize our implementation action plan by the end of 2025, which is a month and a half away. We will then begin the implementation action plan in January 2026. Remember, it's a living, adaptable document. So even though we're going to begin tracking our actuals versus objectives, it doesn't mean it's set in stone at that point. We can alter it and change it.
In full disclosure, we have work that's set up with subject matter experts and groups of staff throughout the district that's going to extend well beyond January 2026. So we're going to still be heavily working on the implementation action plan beyond that time. Yeah, just don't want to set false expectations.
Yeah, and we are updating the strategic plan, this 5-year strategic plan, and a lot of the tactics that are going into place are newer and different. And so that's what we're working on over the next month and a half. And with that, do we have any questions?
Questions
Good
or
work.
comments?
Thank you.
Thank you.
No,
Thank you.
great job.
Thank
mean,
you.
You guys pulled together some very diverse or divergent, for lack of a better word, opinion, then somehow make it all work and fit together concisely. That is pretty impressive. And I know we did not see a lot of outreach and all the work group that you called together that actually backed up all these really concise sentences. So thank you.
Well, I want to go back a little bit in history here. When I joined the board, we didn't have a strategic plan, and I was shocked because I asked for that 2 years before I was on the board as an audience member. And the district was approaching a 100-year anniversary and didn't have, had never developed a strategic plan. I felt we did a good job with the last one. And it was quite a lot of work for us as board and staff. It wasn't easy because we were doing it for the first time. And I think that we've made a major leap forward right now, at this point.
Well, it's on the shoulders of giants that the next thing can be
Right.
built, so.
Wanted into that, we had a budget as a strategic plan. It's an annual, it's done, but a budget is a planning document. So we weren't totally void. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, with that, shall we move on to the next item, General Manager's report?
Yes, General Manager's report, and it's 6:32, and I'm glad that Mr. Sethy had those final remarks because he put us over the 1 hour mark, which means I don't have to talk too fast in my General Manager's report and feel bad about it. It's actually just a quick note that I emailed to the board our draft board calendar for 2026, and also it has on that same documents the sort of proposed committee assignments and so forth. I just wanted to call that out. I know I've asked for some feedback from you all before November 20, and I've got some feedback already. Thank you. Wanted to highlight in particular, and Ms. Sue has put the calendar up on the board. I really wanted to draw your attention to the blue squares that are in mid to late January and early February. Those dates with blue squares on them. And request that you all please look at your calendars for those dates in particular. Really, we're asking for you to look at all of the meeting dates that are on this draft calendar and cross-check your other commitments and the other organizations that you belong to. But in particular, in the near term, if you could take a look at those blue square dates and let us know if you have any conflicts or any issues with meeting in the late afternoon or evening of those dates. Those are all about the potential for a joint meeting with the Union Sanitary District Board of Directors. We've done that in the past. And the idea here is it might be good to meet with Union Sanitary District Board and kind of make sure that we're all on the same page when it comes to our water resources master plan. And because, we're talking about water resources in this service area. And we are talking in our plan, and we've heard this evening about some of the thoughts about that. We are talking in our plan about the potential implementation of purified water, likely decades in the future, if ever. But as an agency, to have alignment with our partner agency at USD with that element of our plan and the timing and the rationale, might be a good thing. So we have been talking with USD staff about that and trying to align on the overall concept and vision so that, we have a united front when it comes to this topic with the community, with others and so forth. So that's what those dates are for. If you could let us know what your,
As long as we have a clear mutual understanding that recycled water is 3 to 4 times the cost of any other water supply source we have.
yeah,
And it is absolutely not within the framework of a 2050 plan.
I think there's a commitment from the entire board that we will not proceed with recycled water if it doesn't make business sense. It
Well,
will only proceed
why
if
do we
it
have it in our
makes
plan?
business sense, right?
Just to note, not in the current mailing from USD, but the prior one, the general manager's message keyed on this topic of recycled water because they get asked the same question every once in a while. Why aren't we doing it? And so he pointed out that it was, the cost of doing it
Right.
was cost prohibitive.
right,
And it didn't make sense for USD to
right.
invest any money in it.
And,
We're in the
that
same
hasn't changed.
Yep.
And this board is very familiar with that. And that is a big reason why it's kind of at the very end of, once we run out of every other option, that's where it shows up. But we understand that we would be, we'd be missing our duty and responsibility if we didn't have a plan to meet those
Yeah.
future.
The plan is not to
Conditions.
do it. And we hired a consultant who had built their entire company on recycled water. It was a mistake at the time and the hiring of that group. And it
Right.
played out fortunately in the prior board. vote.
I know the council is not looking at me, but you guys are making me a little bit uncomfortable on this
Yeah.
subject.
And this is a request to look at little blue squares.
Yes, look at blue squares, please.
So we do need your feedback. We'd appreciate that. There's a whole lot of coordination going on in the background and your input on that would be really helpful. The sooner the better, but we definitely need your feedback on all of that stuff by November 20, because that helps us to keep moving things forward and helps us to coordinate with the incoming president shortly after the December board meeting in terms of committees and things. So I appreciate that. Thank you. And President Huang, that completes my general manager's reports.
All right, next item is director's comments and or agenda item requests. Do I have any director's comments?
Huh.
No?
Well, this may be a repeat of the past, but the Bay Delta plan has extraordinary impact on potential impact on our district. San Francisco's talking about spending $4 billion if unimpaired flows are put in lieu of other alternatives. The Bay Delta plan, unfortunately, they don't use the year. It's 2035. It's 2035 when they adopted the ordinance in 2009. 2013, it was 55% unimpaired flows, and it's reviewed every 3 years, and they have not changed the end date. That allows the state and the constituents to ignore the inconvenient truth of sea level rise. The Delta Master has said that 2 feet of sea level rise, we've lost the Delta. We're playing in a bizarre game. And Fish Bio has reported to at least aqua meetings that neither unimpaired flows nor voluntary agreements are going to result in an increased fish migration. So the nonsense continues. At a meeting yesterday, talking about spending a lot of money and a lot of impact to our district. 4 billion on the part with interest on the part of San Francisco. We would be about 4% of that. At assuming it with interest about 10 billion, about $400 million out of our pocket. This district alone. Nonsense is an irresponsible state water policy and governance that someone has to start saying, hey, this is crazy. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment, Director Weed. Any other director comments? If not, I will say the meeting is adjourned at 6:39, please.